Hi there, my name is Leah, and I am a life and relationship transition coach and the founder of Life Remade. Today, I want to talk about overcoming imposter syndrome, something that a lot of us deal with when we're going through big transitions, like a career change specifically, and how rewriting narratives can actually help you to overcome this. If you haven't already watched our video, the first video on this series, How to Overcome Internal Conflict, Finding Clarity and Confidence, I highly recommend checking that one out first. It talks about 3 common internal conflicts, and the first one being imposter syndrome at work. So today we're going to go deeper into imposter syndrome, where it comes from, how past experiences might be shaping this belief, and how to shift your mindset into one of more confidence. So step 1, understanding the root of imposter syndrome. I think it's always important to understand where something comes from, because then we know how to sort of like pluck it out from the root. Imposter syndrome specifically doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's often rooted in our past experiences. So something that made you feel not good enough. Let's take a moment to reflect on your past experiences where this might have come from, where this belief might have stemmed from and sprouted up from. So here's some questions that you can sort of reflect on right now. Have you ever been told by a teacher, boss, or an authority figure, maybe even a family member, that you weren't good enough? Maybe you weren't told this specifically verbatim, but you started to feel like to this person you weren't good enough. Another question, did someone in your past make you doubt your abilities, especially at a young age? So developmentally, maybe even, when you were a child, did you feel like you couldn't do something? Another question is, have you ever been publicly called out or made to feel like you didn't have the right skills or job, or for a job or task? So these are all questions to consider. And if you've had one or more of these experiences, just know that you're not alone. It's very, very common. That's why these questions are here, is to help you reflect, and because they're questions that typically have an answer to them. If you're watching this video, likely you have answered yes to at least one of these questions. These memories are held onto because it feels like they will keep you safe from embarrassment, from failure, from rejection. But the reality is that they're actually holding you back through feeling this sense of imposter syndrome and then sabotaging your growth forward. So the next step here is to rewrite that narrative, that internal voice inside your head that's telling you, no, you're not good enough. No, you aren't capable. We want to rewrite that story or narrative, because the beliefs that we hold about ourselves that come from other people projecting their own insecurities on us need to stay with those people. They cannot become our own limitations and our own belief systems. So think about the person that made you feel not good enough. It's likely that they felt that way about themselves and then projected that onto you. So the mindset shift here that I want you to engage with is, instead of seeing their words as your truth, recognize that they were likely reflecting that person's insecurities. So we're separating our identity from the story. You don't have to carry their fears for them as your own. The version of you that believed these words is no longer who you are today. So the version of you back then in this memory, if you were 10, 12, 15, maybe even you were an adult already, you are no longer that version. Whoever you are today is different by default. You evolve, you change. That's the beauty of time. Just because someone made you feel small that day doesn't mean that you have to hold on to that belief. This belief is actually outdated, and it no longer serves you to hold on to. It may feel like it's keeping you safe, or it may feel like there must be some truth to that, but there isn't. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be feeling this conflict internally saying, wait a minute, I do think I am good enough though. Somewhere deep inside, I know better. So go ahead and separate yourself from that belief. That is the mindset shift that needs to first happen. After that, you can rewrite your story. So addressing this fear of being called out or told that you lack the right skills, this doesn't mean that you're a fraud. It just means that you have a fear, right? It doesn't mean that you need to identify with that fear as truth. It just means that it is something that maybe needs some extra compassion, maybe some extra tending to. And I want you to reframe this. So another step forward, right? So shifting your mindset, separating yourself, and then reframing this part of your story, this fear. If someone points out that you lack a skill, the reframe would be, this isn't rejection, it's useful information. So you're collecting data. Feedback, I always say, and I get feedback a lot because I own my own business. Feedback is value. There is so much value in feedback because then you know that it's time to maybe look at something from a different direction. It's not necessarily that it's true or that it says anything about your worth, but that it's an opportunity for growth, potentially. Another reframe is, instead of seeing it as proof that you're not good enough, see it as guidance on where you might be able to improve. So I always answer any feedback, even if it's rejection, with thank you so much for letting me know, and really showing gratitude there, because the point of this all is that we can evolve from every experience in life, even if the experience is rejection or negative feedback. So those are some simple reframes. Not rejection, information, and it is guidance on how we can potentially improve. So the final takeaway here is imposter syndrome thrives on outdated beliefs. It feeds off of our outdated narratives, the things that you were told in the past that do not define you today. So in order to starve the imposter syndrome, we have to change the narrative. We have to change the belief. So next time it creeps in, ask, whose voice is this? Is this really mine, or is it something I was taught to believe that is a projection of someone else's insecurities? Allow that to remain with that person. And then tell yourself a different story about the fear that's popping up. Reframe the narrative. I'm just collecting data. I'm collecting information. This is something I'm going to use to evolve and grow. What is one way that you have experienced imposter syndrome? And I would love for you to drop a comment below, because I think that we can all learn from each other's experiences and know that we are definitely not alone and that it can be worked through. There's always a through line here. So remember that. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope this was helpful. Make sure to download the worksheet that I've included below to start overcoming internal resistance and take small steps forward towards big change. Stay tuned for our next video on internal conflict coming up next week. All right, bye.